Hello and welcome to Encore. Thanks very much indeed for being with us. I'm Melissa Bell. Coming up on today's programme.
No, this is not happening.
I need you, your mom, and your son to step off the property.
This is not your home.
I had Orson Welles, Mick Jagger, and Salvador Dali as the Mad Emperor of the Galaxy.
From 99 Homes to Down by Love to Jodorowsky's Dune, we'll be hearing all about the big releases of the moment with our film critic Lisa Nesselson, who'll also be telling us about the discounts that bloom in the spring or why it's so good to live in France. Lisa, thanks very much for being with us. Now, we begin with a film that's out here in France this week that I know you're very excited about. What you're less excited about is the way that people are going to be able to watch it. Tell us about 99 Homes.
Well, first of all, this is a terrific movie. This past September, it won the top prize at the Deauville Festival of American Film out of a 14-film competition. It's the subject's fascinating. The acting is superb. It stars the remarkable Michael Shannon as a pragmatic but sleazy realtor, and Andrew Garfield is a hardworking young man who, in the economic morass that followed the burst housing bubble, is evicted from the modest family home he shares with his mother and son. So with that pedigree, wouldn't you think the distributor would be excited about bringing it out in theaters? But the French distributor has decided to bypass movie theaters and offer the movie exclusively as video on demand, or what the French call e-cinema, E for electronic. Now, call me a snob, call me a purist, but I think this movie belongs in theaters. If you want to show it on streaming stuff afterwards, fine, but put it in movie theaters. So there's no place like home, and there is no better or worse place than Florida in 2010 to illustrate how that real estate bust of 2008 created more misery per square foot, per square meter than you would have thought humanly possible. Housing bubble, that term sounds almost poetic, but there's absolutely nothing poetic about what happens when it pops. And this fallout is something director Ramin Barani depicts brilliantly in 99 Homes. Let's take a look.
I'm very sorry to tell you that this home has been foreclosed on and officially transferred to the bank. And I'm going to need you to please vacate the premises.
No, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Carver, and we've been getting our eviction notices. I was in court yesterday.
Yeah.
And the judge informed me that I got 30 days to file for an appeal, and that's what I intend to do.
Well, if you posted bond and you have an emergency stay signed by the judge, you're welcome to remain.
I got a question. You guys didn't get any rescheduling of the
what I
eviction
received
date?
is a court order signed by a judge. It says you are to vacate these premises today.
We were scared
this
of
home
this.
is owned by the bank.
Now, do we know why, Lisa, it's only being made available in streaming?
Well, the argument they're presenting is that this is more democratic. This way people all over France can see the movie at the same time, provided, of course, they have a computer and an internet connection, a high-speed one. But this is the same company, it's worth thinking about, that brought us Abel Ferrara's Welcome to New York, which starred Gerard Depardieu as a character very much like Dominique Strauss-Kahn, and Jacqueline Bisset as a character very much like his then-wife Anne Sinclair, at that moment that he was accused of raping a chambermaid in a Manhattan hotel room. And I agree, it made sense to offer that film exclusively as e-cinema because it was sexually frank, it was kind of sordid, it was likely to appeal to very self-selecting audiences. And although it's rather uneven, I really liked it. But 99 Homes is a movie that really should be in theaters. And I can't help thinking the distributor just wants to keep, more of the proceeds for themselves. I think it's wonderful to bring out older movies on e-cinema, but the idea of moving away from that, moving away from movie theaters is just a bad one. I got to speak to Michael Shannon in Deauville, and this is what he had to say about the difference between a house and a home and why the film is so scrupulously accurate.
This dichotomy between what for the homeowners is their sanctuary, and for the developers and the business people, it's just a way to make money. And that system is bound to cause heartbreak at some point. Nobody knows more about this period and this crisis, nobody I've talked to anyway, than Ramin.
Just be aware that that 99 Homes is available starting this week, of course, in e-cinema form. Now, the US subprime loan scandal and real estate crash stemmed from a lot of people behaving very badly, Lisa. Currently on French screens is Down by Love, based on the true story of the inappropriate behavior of just two people.
Just two people, but riveting to watch. And inappropriate is right, because this tense, unsettling film was inspired by a case that took place in Versailles in 2011. The director of a women's prison there, a married father, aged 40, was having an affair with one of his inmates. Tell me that's not inappropriate. A young woman half his age. Now, we're never told in the film what it is she actually did, but we know that she spent 4 years already behind bars waiting for the trial for something that could carry a sentence of 12 to 15 years. He's worked his way up through the prison system to a post of major responsibility, but he finds himself so utterly, passionately smitten with this young woman that he just doesn't seem to realize how many lines he's crossed and how bad this looks. I mean, they were found openly fondling each other on the balcony of his office overlooking the prison yard. So
it sounds difficult to believe that a man in his position would risk that position by carrying on with a lovesick teenager.
Well, when you put it that way, it does sound hard to believe, but what makes it believable is the outstanding performances by Guillaume Gallienne and Adele Exarchopoulos. She first drew international attention, of course, opposite Léa Seydoux in Blue is the Warmest Color, and he is an incredibly talented member of the permanent troupe of the Comédie Française. His autobiographical comic play, which he turned into a movie, Me, Myself, and Mom, won every prize under the sun and made lots and lots of money. He was superb as Pierre Berger in the film Yves Saint Laurent. Let's take a look at the two of them here.
Never let you down.
C'est pas un jeu pour moi, tu sais. Je me suis jamais sentie aussi bien depuis que je suis enfermée. Je t'attendrai pas éternellement. Tu fais quoi là?
J'ai une famille, tu te rappelles? On a fait une connerie, je suis désolé.
It's a sad, intense case of l'amour fou, crazy love. Here's Adele Exarchopoulos explaining what it was like, how it informed her role, because she spent several months preparing by giving drama classes in actual prisons.
I spent 3 hours per week with these women, sharing their life with them, and that personally affected me on a human level, but it helped me develop my character too, who was locked up for 4 years.
Now, speaking, Lisa, of fou or crazy, we move now to a film out in France this week, which is a documentary about an incredibly ambitious but thwarted film project, Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yes, I love this movie. It is a true story with twists and turns and turns and twists that you simply cannot make up. The cast, had it been made, was so mouth-watering that filmgoers would have risked, I think, running out of saliva. Salvador Dali, Orson Welles, Mick Jagger, production design and special effects by all the people at the top of their field in the 1970s, and the Jodorowsky in the title is one Alejandro Jodorowsky, who is now a very spry 87 years old. He was born in Chile, he lives in France, and his film El Topo, back in 1970, is considered to be the cornerstone of what we call the midnight movie revolution. That included movies like Pink Flamingos, Eraserhead, the story of how El Topo became a must-see late-night experience, which I definitely had, was beautifully told in the 2005 documentary Midnight Movies from the Margin to the Mainstream. So Jodorowsky is this elder statesman of surreal weirdness, of drugginess on screen. His next film, just as surreal, was The Holy Mountain in 1973. I think of Jodorowsky as, say, a handsome, crazy, incredibly gifted film director, but I now see how reductive and narrow that is, because here's how Wikipedia describes him. A film and theater director, screenwriter, playwright, actor, author, poet, producer, composer, musician, comic book writer, and spiritual guru.
Is that all?
And that is all true. That's it. What have we ever accomplished in our lives?
Quite.
He was born to Jewish-Ukrainian parents who were living in Chile. He came to Paris in the 1950s, studied with the great mime Etienne Decroux, and then traveled with Marcel Marceau's troupe. As a Spanish speaker, he bounced back and forth between France and Mexico. And the Dune in the title, you were wondering about that, is, of course, Frank Herbert's 1965 sci-fi novel. And because his incredibly ambitious project never got made, you may recall that David Lynch ended up doing a version of it. It's an accepted rule in screenwriting that you put your characters through hell. You're watching this movie and you're thinking, oh, that's too bad. That's an obstacle. Oh, wait, that happened too? Oh, no. I mean, obstacle after obstacle. You couldn't make it up if you ran a tough break store. Movies about movies that never got made or completed are a niche of their own. I think this may be the very best one I've ever seen, but here's a glimpse.
Yo quería hacer una película que diera a la gente que tomaba LSD las alucinaciones que la droga daba sin alucinación. Mi ambición con Dune fue tremenda. I want to create a prophet, to change the young mind of all the world.
There's Jodorowsky's mind, and then there's everybody else's minds.
You make it sound incredibly tempting. I can't wait, Lisa. Just before we go, the National Film Federation of French Cinemas has a gift for everyone in France. Tell us more about why they're being so generous.
Well, they are being generous because the people who run movie theaters in France have figured out that it's good every so often to give people an incentive to remind them how much fun it can be to go to the movies. So what did they do? For the 17th time on March 20th, 21st, and 22nd, it will only cost €4 to see a movie, any movie at all, anywhere in France. So for your €4 investment, you could see Star Wars or Zootopia, or you could see 2 people in a room in Bucharest, or you could see 3 people yelling at each other in Paris. Any movie, every movie, for less than a hot beverage at that chain that rhymes with Star Truck. Full price for a movie hovers around about €10, and so you can get 2.5 for the price of one. And they have a sense of humor about the event, and this year's promotional trailer, I think, is pretty funny.
Well, we're going to have a look at that in just a moment. Lisa Nesselson, thank you very much for looking a look ahead to all those films out this week here in France. Do remember that you can check us out on our website. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter. That's it for today. And we leave you with a taste of the generosity of the National Federation of French Cinemas.
Au cinéma, on est toujours surpris par le grand écran.